Baseball! The Olympics are over and spring training is in full swing. What have been the highs and lows for the first few games? We'll cover that and more next on Cardinals on My Time.
I've been thinking about this, Mr. Han. If I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time?
Now, before we get started, a quick shout out to those of you listening right now. If you're hearing this, you're getting let in on a little bit of a secret. Check the link in the description and you'll see what we've been cooking up. More news to come this weekend, but as a thank you to those that are here right now, take a look and we'll see you on over there. And lastly, if you've been enjoying everything you've been seeing on the Redbird Rundown channel so far, make sure you like and subscribe. We were looking at our analytics and about 85% of you listeners are not following or subscribing. So what's the deal over there? So go ahead, click that button real quick. I'll give you a quick 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's get this thing going. So joining me today, familiar face, Matt. We'll let you talk a little bit later. I won't waste my time introducing you. So if you want to know more about that, check in this Sunday at 6 p.m. or see him at Redbird Rants. So no offense to Matt, but I want to finally welcome in JD from Locked On Cards. A bunch of you likely recognize him. For those of you that don't, JD does an awesome job over there. If you haven't listened, give him a follow. Check it out. JD, long time coming, man. Welcome on.
Thanks for finally being able to join you, man, and appreciate we could finally hook up. I know we were going to earlier on, and then the Donovan trade blew it all up, and everybody had we had to abort and audible to something else. So, but good to finally be on here with you guys.
Yeah, I think what we were planning on is Bloom going to trade Brendan Donovan? And he responded about that evening saying, yes, I'm going to.
Really, he got scared and did it. It was like, all right, boys, geez, back off. I'll do it already.
So at least we know we got one listener in Mr. Chaim Bloom. So shout out over there. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. So we're pumped to have you on, JD. But yeah, spring has sprung, at least in Florida. I do have a snow warning up here. We're hoping for a little bit of a snow day on Thursday. But that means, the cold is here to stay. Spring training records don't matter. I think the Cardinals won the Grapefruit League last year. But they currently sit 2-2. They lost to the Nationals this evening. So at this point, we've heard 4 games. We've only seen 2, one of which was a Cardinals broadcast. So real quick sidebar, guys. In 2026, at a brand new Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium and all the technology, how are we having access to one Cardinals broadcast? What the heck's going on?
It seems like it's something that's happening across MLB, though. There's a lot of teams that aren't televising a lot of the games so far, because I'm seeing other fan bases kind of whine about it as well. So I don't know. I don't know why MLB wouldn't want it to be where, like, hey, you have all of these people. You might go dark in 2027. Maybe let them all watch whatever they want to watch at this point. But I don't, some of the decision making that's made above our pay grade, I can't vouch for it. I have no idea why it is the way it is.
Yeah, I feel like I can live stream the hummingbird feeder from the old lady across town from me. And so the fact that I can't watch, I know there's spring training games, but the fact that I can't watch spring training games of a major sports organization is kind of insane at this point. So I guess I'll just watch the hummingbirds.
Yeah, like imagine if the NFL goes, well, we're not going to show the preseason game. What? No, what? No,
well,
that would never happen.
I mean, that's like a whole other level. Yeah,
that's silly. Yeah, we got guys that are hanging out trying to find Nancy Guthrie still out in Arizona, and they're streaming 24/7, and we can watch that. We can watch them stare at plants and trucks, but we can't watch our favorite teams and see some of these young prospects that, baseball nerds like us want to watch. We want to see these at-bats. We want to see these innings. We don't get a chance to do it very often, and we're getting shut out early on here in the spring training season.
Well, and we hear about the ABS, all the technology they're doing. It's like, cool. I heard a bunch of challenges today on MLB audio. It sounds awesome. But it's just stuff that we just don't get the access to, and it doesn't make any sense. But that's something for another day. So let's go to what we have taken in some way. Matthew Liberatore started day 1, Kyle Leahy day 2, Michael McGreevy started with the batting practice ball yesterday, and Andre Palante started this evening. We haven't seen Dustin May yet. We're told he's on a veteran schedule. He's on his own deal. So JD, starting with you, I know these guys are only going like 40-ish pitches, but from the starter specifically, what have you seen so far, or what have you kind of looked for these guys?
Honestly, I think all four have done relatively well. Libby's been the most impressive one. Didn't get a chance to see him throw that splitter that we'd heard about, but obviously 4Ks in 2 innings. That would be a huge boost for the staff if he can take that next step and kind of fulfill that first-round draft pick status that he got when he was drafted by Tampa Bay and the Cardinals swapping out of Rosarena, which fans are still bitter about. They won't let it go. Leahy gives up the one dinger in the bottom of the second. Not a bad pitch. I thought it was just a great job by the hitter. Sometimes the hitters win. People have to understand that they're trying to do good things as well. So outside of that, though, I thought he looked pretty darn good. A lot of people in my comment section on videos and stuff still think he belongs in the bullpen. Anyone I know that's worked in baseball and has covered this team has thought Leahy has what it takes to become a solid starter for the team in 26. McGreevy, as you mentioned, don't use batting practice balls. Bad, and he knew it too. He was like, "What is up with this stuff?" But
I used batting
my first
practice
thought was
balls
like,
when I
weren't
pitched,
these
but they
supposed to
were
be-
actually the real balls.
Yeah. Well, I thought the ball was supposed to move more though when you had scuffs and cuts inside of them. So got to get that cutter inside on those lefties, Michael. But other than that, he is what he is. Throws a lot of strikes, changes speeds, hit his spots, weak contact. We know that's what he's going to be trying to do this year for an entire season in his first full season. And then Palante, outside of the leadoff walk, which we know is bad, but you were a pitcher, right, Scott? Like so you know what it's like. You go to a new stadium and you have to get used to a new mound. You never been out there before, so first batter sometimes it's a little weird. So people will think that I'm making excuses for Palante, but I think that's a real thing because every pitch, if you go watch it on the MLB app, everything was up. Everything was up, so it looked like he was trying to get the arm slot right, release point, everything, getting used to the mound. So not too bad there. The error by Pozo ended up what scored the run. So probably lowest on the totem pole in fans' eyes and most people's eyes after the disastrous season in 25. But I'm not going to punt on him. I'm going to give him a shot. And we don't know the health of when Hunter Dobbins is going to be back. He's coming back from the knee issue. Richard Fitz has had injury issues. We know Dustin May has had plenty of injury issues. So certainly a chance that Palante could be sliding into a rotation spot at some point this season anyway. So why not give him a chance to prove what he's got? And if he doesn't win one in the spring, so be it. You put him in the bullpen. If not, then, hey, he proved everybody wrong and wins a spot outright.
Well, I don't want to put you on it, but I believe you described Michael McGreevy as eating a lot of innings, throwing strikes, and giving up weak contact. That sounds like an old
Little Miles
friend.
Michaelis.
You're the one that said it, and that is one of Matt's favorites, who he said if the Cardinals signed Michaelis back, he would turn in his Cardinals fandom. So luckily, the Cardinals, again, Chaim Bloom heard that, didn't want to make that happen. So, Matt, what are we thinking about the rotation for what we've seen so far?
Well, I heard the batting practice ball, and my Miles Michaelis radar just started pinging because I thought, surely we're going to get a mention of Michaelis here. As far as what to take away, honestly, here's the deal. UCLs are all intact. Shoulder labrums are all intact. Velocities looked okay. Braking stuff looked okay. I think purely and totally, and I'm going to write about this on Redbird Rants, I legitimately think spring training is about health and ramping up. Baseball is a symphony. There is no need for us to get so bent out of shape about the first notes that these guys start playing. So let's give them time. Sometimes pitchers come into spring training games and they're not throwing breaking stuff. They're working on a particular pitch. They're working on a particular location. So again, you'd like to not see like 5 home runs in a spring training start or something like that. But I think health is the main key indicator here. And I'll just be fascinated to see who the 5 they choose to go with in the opening rotation is. And we'll just see where it goes. So everybody's healthy. I'm pleased.
Well, shout out to Sonny Gray's spring last start. Is that what you're referencing with the 5 home runs and the up and downs last year when he was trying to set records with that? But you actually segued perfectly into the next thing we're talking about with this, who's going to be the 5. So JD, throwing this back to you, what do you want the Cardinals to learn about the rotation this spring? Do they need to find an ace? Is that what they're looking for? Are they looking for a number 1? To Matt's point, are they just looking to break camp with 5 healthy arms and whoever it is who it is? Or like what do you think they need to know about their starting rotation on opening day?
Well, health obviously is a huge role in all of this. As we mentioned, Dobbins is coming back because I think he's got the most upside between him and Richard Fitz. Not that I dislike what Fitz offers, but Dobbins just kind of, I don't know, something about him I just like. I just dig it, and I feel like he could be a very good starter for the Cardinals here this year. But again, you got to be a little patient with it coming back from the knee injury. But I want to see Liberatore. I would love to see him take that next step. They don't have a guy that's going to be up this year that's ready to really, take the bull by the horns and be that number one guy. You're just really looking at what we're hoping will be 5 to 6 solid starters throughout the year. Dustin May certainly has upside, but again, we're talking about a guy who's never stayed healthy ever in his major league career. So to expect him to do it this year, I think is fool's gold. But I hope that he's gotten past whatever the issues have been with his arm. And so far, we've heard good things about his bullpen sessions in Jupiter. So, last year when we were talking about health, that was one of the things that was like the miracle that the Cardinals were able to stay healthy. And the problem was that they stayed healthy, but 3 of the guys sucked. And you still had to keep throwing them out there. You didn't have it. And it was kind of a good thing because you didn't have anybody else left anyway. You're like, I don't even know what we're going to bring up if these guys aren't available. McGreevy obviously got the ball in the second half of the season after they finally punted on Eric Fetty, which was great. But, these guys are all kind of, think about it, like Libby in his first, this will be his second full season as a starter. Dobbins and Fitz were just rookies last year. McGreevy, first year as a full-time starter in the major leagues. I mean, they're all almost, other than Dustin May, they're almost all kind of rookies coming into this thing. So, it's to expect a lot out of these guys in this situation, I think is doing yourself a disservice. But maybe they surprise us. Maybe they do. Young arms with a lot to prove and a lot of leeway to do that this year. They're going to get the ball each time. They're going to get their innings. And if they stay healthy, like Matt said, it could be very exciting. It also could be very painful to watch at certain times because you just don't know.
Well, I think the extremes for this rotation, the way that it's set up, the biggest extreme they can possibly go is good. Even their worst, I think, is going to be more close to what they're already expecting from them. We don't have anybody projected to have lower than a 4 ERA. So how much worse could it get if that's what actually ends up happening? So Matt, do you think it is eventually going to be health that sets the opening day rotation, or do you think there's going to be an actual competition that they're going to leave open? Do you think they have a plan and that the opening day rotation doesn't actually mean anything?
Well, you referenced, are we looking for an ace? I am awfully afraid that the deck of cards we are holding this year in our starting pitchers just doesn't go up to ace. And that's not to say that I think guys couldn't be successful. I think Liberatore could be successful. I hope that May has a bounce back year because I think he could be a valuable piece at a trade deadline. I'm really fascinated in this Leahy versus Palante. At least that's kind of where I'm pitting it. I don't know if the organization is or not. My personal preference would be to see Leahy and Palante flip spots, that Palante kind of becomes that fireman, multi-inning guy out of the pen, maybe. And Leahy, with his 5 to 6 pitch repertoire, gets an opportunity to prove what he can do in the starting rotation. To your other point, though, I do not think that the first 5 that start the year are going to be the 5 that end the year. I fully expect at some point this season, if he's healthy, I think we will see Quinn Mathews. I don't know how much more runway Tink Hence has before we need to also see him and see what he can do. So, I think health is going to play a role, but I don't think the first 5 is going to be the last 5. And that is just as intriguing to me as who's going to break camp with the big team.
Mm-hmm. Well, shout out to Tink for making his spring debut today. I wish.
And we don't think he got hurt. We think he got out of it healthy, which is great.
I told you, UCLs, labrums, ribs, everything's okay.
Yeah. And you bring up Hence, and this is the thing is like, we talk about how the prospects, Heim was able to get a bunch. Now they got like 6 in the top 100. Mathews and Hence were just in the top 100 not that long ago. And if you're able to somehow figure out the control issues for Quinn and get Hence healthy, you've still got 2 guys who are, right there on the edge probably of cracking the top 100. So, and a lot of that talent is pitching too. So they could be huge for this team. Probably not this year, but moving on to the future. But like you said, if they end up moving on from Dustin May and he becomes a trade chip at some point, I would assume Mathews, if he's doing what he was doing in 24, would be the first call up. But you've also got, Bryson Watts is a guy that I'm intrigued by as well. So a lot of good young names to think about, and we've got 162 to figure out who they are all going to be.
The pitching depth is more exciting than it's been before. It's just been like, we have guys, but now it's guys that could potentially be dudes, to shout back to one of mine and Josh Jacobs, where it's the rotation guys or is it rotation dudes? And that's something that we're probably not going to find out this year, but it's what they do need to figure out. But let's move from the mound to the plate in another part of the depth that we're talking about. But let's go behind the plate, the catching situation. I think this is one we're going to hear about and talk honestly all season long. It seemed like a place that they were going to be able to deal from and clear out some of that, which would have cleared these conversations, but they chose not to do it because even though they have that depth, that seemingly there's like major league talent at every level of the minor leagues is what we're seeing apparently behind the plate. But let's first start with the major league roster, then go on down. So I might go a little bit of, I don't know the DEFCON levels. I'm at the DEFCON like more towards the bad one. So is that lower or higher?
I believe 1 is the bad one and 5 is it's still bad, but less bad.
Yeah, you got to watch War Games from the 80s, boys. Take us to DEFCON 2. Yeah, that's when it gets lower, the worse things go.
Golf.
Okay, so let's say we're at a DEFCON about 3.5 right now. Ivan Herrera hasn't played a game, and I don't want to look too far into things, new regime and all this stuff, but I'm getting a little bit of, and I hate to say it, Tommy Edman vibes, a little bit. Talk me off the ledge. We heard about the surgery, fine, nothing crazy, just like Tommy Edman, had a little bit of cleanup. And Tommy John wasn't shoulder reconstruction or anything. We assume all is well. He's like, yeah, I'm going to play Team Panama in the World Baseball Classic. Probably not going to catch. We'll DH. Fine. Then it comes winter warm-up, and he's just like, yeah, I haven't really thrown or hit yet at that point. And we're all kind of like, wait, so this wasn't kind of a cleanup? That was about 5 months ago. Now it's February, and he's taken BP, no game action. He's taken reps in the outfield just to stay loose. Jeff Jones said on Twitter, it's a private rehab plan the team doesn't wish to disclose at this moment. Fine for Lars Nootbaar. I'm on that side. But Ivan Herrera, JD, talk me off the ledge. Is this Tommy Edman vibes, or is this just, hey, end of February, we got plenty of time?
I think it's them. I hate to use the Mo P word, but it's just them being patient with him, I think, because we've seen footage of him working out with the catchers and catching pop-ups and taking bullpens where he's throwing the ball back to guys. I think they're in no hurry because of the depth that they have. You've got a Pozo, you've got a Pages, you've got a Crooks that can all handle the pitching here in the spring. Maybe he doesn't get behind the plate until really late in the spring. I'm still skeptical whether or not they should even be using him as a catcher. I don't know if they're just doing him a solid because he wants to do it. I don't think they need him to be the catcher anymore. I think they need him to find another position, whether it is, rotating in with Burley over at first base or going into the left field or just being the DH. What's so bad about that? It's not why is that a horrible thing? That's very important, especially if you're the 3-4 guy in this lineup. So, I'm fine letting him figure it out, but I feel like in the end, he's going to not be a catcher anymore. That he hasn't done anything, even when he was healthy, that impressed me all that much from behind the plate. So if he's going to be one of your bigger bats, you want to save his legs so he can hit the snot out of the ball and put it out of the ballpark when you don't have anybody else who can do it. I say more power to you doing that and moving on. But it's one of those years where they don't have to do it yet. They're not pushing for a playoff spot, as upsetting as that is for some fans. So I think they're just going to kind of let everything play out the way they need to, and they're in no rush to get him behind the plate.
All right, let's turn this into a Herrera episode real quick. I was in the camp of, if healthy, he provides the most value for you as a catcher that's putting up a 125 plus. 125 or more, WRC plus, OPS plus. I mean, that's definitely Silver Slugger category. That's potentially going into the way of MVP if the stuff behind the plate improves, which he threw out like 7 base runners out of 100 million, it felt like, when the ball did get to second base. And yes, that was painful, but he was seen as the predecessor, or the future behind Yadier Molina at a point, and they're not just going to say that if he cannot catch. So I don't think you lose some of that. So I think the arm is potentially an issue. Now at this point, though, end of February, I think maybe, JD, to your point, I might have been in a pipe dream that 2 to 3 times a week behind the plate would have been the best solution here. And the fact that it is the Pozo, the Crooks, and the Pajes still being on the roster kind of also sheds light on, like, maybe he's not going to be. So, Matt, you've been waiting. I saw you posturing up. You're ready to talk. You want Herrera out of the gear. Go ahead.
JD, so glad you're here. We're just going to do a WWE tag team on Scott. I'll go low. You hit him with the chair up top. And this is a blessing in disguise because the best bat on the team does not need to be sacrificing at bats catching behind the plate. When at least, so far as we have seen, he's a professional athlete, but I don't know if he's a professional catcher. I do know this. He is a professional hitter. And if you just let him hit, you said 125 WRC plus. What if it's a 150 WRC plus from the DH spot because that's all he's doing? I totally understand. Like, you're looking at potential Will Smith kind of vibes behind the plate if he's running that kind of WRC plus. I think that's amazing. But I don't know if you guys realize this. I don't know if we have any big hitters on this team besides him. Like, I think Burley is solid, but I think he is in a class by himself. And I think we need to see if that can play out. What if he is, to use your terminology again, what if he is a dude in this lineup for a long time? And I just don't think using him at the catching position is worth that.
Okay, JD, you brought up DHing, nothing wrong with that. What about the people? What do you want to say to the people that have said, hey, let's just have him pick up a first base glove. Let's have him be that outfielder. I've been kind of like, yes, he's an uber athlete. Yes, he could probably learn it, but is now the time that we need him to learn a new position as well?
My thought on it is just like, you know how the Cardinals and most teams, they like versatility with the guys they have. And I'm not saying that he needs to be the starting first baseman or the starting left fielder, but in a pinch, you need a guy that can go out there and do it. Burley's going to need days off. He's going to have days where lefties are going to be on the mound that might carve him up. Why not have a right-handed guy over there in Ivan Herrera? I mean, we saw Will Contreras pull it off pretty darn good last season, and he doesn't have to be Goldie over there or anything, but, be good enough to get the job done. And as, Matt mentioned, he seems like an athlete that has the capability of learning a new position. And here he doesn't have to be the starter. Wilson had to be the starter right away. They were like, all right, you're the dude. He doesn't have to now. Like, he can go over there and take grounders and just kind of be the guy that's in the background here and there. To Matt's point, like, I want to save this dude's legs. I mean, you're seeing guys like Adley Rutschman, who, caught for a number of years a ton, and you're seeing all of a sudden his body's breaking down a little bit, and it's not there anymore, and he can't even hit anymore. It's been a struggle the last couple seasons. Ivan we don't have to do that to him. You have dudes behind him, guys that, the same thing with like Rodriguez, if he doesn't
out of there,
have to
get him a position, get him another position.
Yeah,
why are we doing this?
Have to catch. Don't make him catch. It's okay. It's all right. You got a Bernal. You can find a Pajes, and you can find these guys that are better receivers behind there. I don't need my catcher to be a superstar hitter, but if I could take one of those guys and put him at first or left or DH to go along with those guys, I feel like I got a more complete team that way, and I'm not hurting the dude who was behind the plate getting beat up. I mean, the fact that Molina lasted as long as he did is an absolute miracle. That's not normal. It's not supposed to happen that way. Normally doesn't, and I think you got to be wary about that and understand that if this guy is going to be a big part of your future, and as you mentioned, he's the slugger. Like, if there's a guy that if the pitchers are coming up, and that's the guy that I think that strikes fear in the lineup, if there is anybody with the Cardinals, like you said, Burley, solid guy, but you fear Herrera. He can do some serious damage. He's the guy that you're like, all right, don't get beat by this guy. So I don't know. I've been saying it since last year. I was like get him a new glove, let him figure out where else he can be useful at. That way we keep his bat in the lineup more times than not.
All right, so this is the episode that will not air.
I was just saying the spirit's moving, the choir is swaying back and forth over here. We're in tune. We're feeling it.
All right. So I'll start to go off of the Herrera behind the plate, mostly because he hasn't done it yet at this point, and it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So I can go that way. But now we've talked about the guys that are going to be there. So that means Pages, if you are listening on MLB audio, lock for the roster, Pozo, 33-pound down Pozo, who played first base today, and Jimmy Crooks is guys that were on the major league roster can handle a pitching staff. So with Herrera being wherever he's going to be, JD, what do you see being the catching alignment? Like, is it going to be Pages starting? Is it going to be Crooks going down to Memphis? Is Pozo just that righty bench bat that they've been talking about all offseason, or what is it going to look like?
I would say that Pages will get the start and the majority of the starts behind the plate if Herrera is not involved. I think they'll bring Crooks in. I don't think they're not gonna catch him. I think they still need to get him 2 to 3 games a week. I just don't think they need to throw it all on top of Pages because Crooks obviously is somebody that they have high hopes for. Powerful guy, left-handed hitter, has nothing really left to prove in the minor leagues. Defensive wise, he seems to be more than capable. Kind of like your total package. He's not a super at anything, but he doesn't suck at anything either. He's a solid catcher all around. And he struggled last year when he came up, but a lot of rookies do. And I think he got a nice little righty lefty combination thing going there that you can pull off. And this is the year to do it. When you don't have to win every single game, you're not expected to win every game. This is when you can do that. Pozo, I don't know what to make about him because they love him. Great guy. I just don't know where he fits on the roster, like an active roster when everybody's healthy. I don't know where he goes. Like, I guess you can make him the right-handed hitting bit, but he can't play outfield. All he can play is first, and I don't know. I feel like they can do better. Like, I need somebody a little more versatile, and I don't see it. I don't see the fit. I would like to see him go down and work with Bernal, perhaps AAA, and have it work out that way. Because that's where I think Leo's probably going to be. I don't know if he's starting there at the beginning of the year, but that's obviously his next step. So that would just be my take on that.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, it's going to be interesting. Matt, who do you think's going to be the starter, and what do you think the Pozo Crooks split is going to look like?
I think, okay, brace yourselves, everybody. Do you guys remember when Mike Matheny had guys that he always just played, regardless? Okay, now shake that off. I'm afraid that Oli Marmol has a guy in Pedro Pages. And I do not mean anything specifically against Pedro Pages. He does not make sense to me. What we are doing with him in the playing time does not make sense because everything else we've done in this organization has been very clear-minded about the young guys. Pages is not an old guy by any stretch of the imagination, but if Crooks has a higher ceiling, let's see Crooks. Let's let him take the majority of the days. Pages kind of came on with the bat last year, but if there is a catching freight train coming towards St. Louis, Bernal and Rodriguez, we have guys. Pages just doesn't make sense to me in this picture. I'm afraid that he's going to get the majority of the starts behind the plate. I think it should be Crooks. I think that makes more sense long-term for the Cardinals. And Pozo, listen, I'm a Pozo bozo. He can pinch hit for me. He can hit like 330 and drive in some runs in the 8th and 9th inning. I like that. If there's room on the roster, I will take that. To JD's point, I'm afraid he's kind of expendable as far as that goes. But if we can make room, he's done some damage as a pinch hitter, so It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, he doesn't. It's nothing about him that I hate. It's just when it comes down to like the rosters, I'm like, I was like, there's just some guys that I feel like might be able to do more for you in other situations. He's not a runner. We don't even know if he can play first. He made the air tonight, so we don't even know if he's any good at that either. He doesn't do anything special behind the plate. And like, do we need 4 catchers on the roster? Do we need Pozo, Paez, Crooks, and Herrera? No, I don't think we have to do that. But one thing that I like about this, Matt, is like if Paez gets all the starts at the beginning of the year and they're easy to make, because you hear about how good he is with the pitchers, and Scott, as a former pitcher, you understand this. Your relationship with your catcher is very, very important. But if Crooks starts to turn that and he becomes that guy, then yeah, I think you let him go ahead and pass up Paez, and then you start making the majority of the starts go to Crooks' direction for the exact reasons that you mentioned. It just feels like, coming out of the gate, it's gonna be a Paez's world 5 out of 7 days, at least early on in the season.
Well, to the point where you were just talking about Pages being so good with his pitchers and everything. Well, those pitchers are gone. And even the relationship he had with those pitchers, it was Sonny Gray, Miles Mikolas, and Eric Fetty. Is that the greatest resume and cover letter that you want to hand to your employer? And now when we see the future of the Cardinals depth coming up, Crooks caught all of them every day. So, like you're saying, as the season goes on, there's no reason that natural progression doesn't just happen to where as those arms come up, might as well make that switch to even just a strong side platoon with Crooks being a lefty, that it just happens to work out that way. So I think that could be a lot of fun. I think Crooks deserves to be up there. I think he should. If they started his service time and stuff like last year, then what's the point of holding him down again? Especially if that means Leo Bernal. You don't want him to split time with Jimmy Crooks in Memphis. That doesn't make sense for either of them, especially with Bernal being a switch hitter. He's a top 100 prospect depending on where you look. So the point with Pozo being potentially sent down is interesting because he signed that interesting split contract, and he does have the options to where he could go down and be that support system for Bernal. So JD, do you think Bernal is starting in Memphis, or do you think let the major league roster figure itself out? It kind of depends on where Crooks goes, or what do you think? What do you think you see?
Honestly, I think it depends on kind of what they want to do with Rodriguez. If he's going to start at A-ball this year, which I'm totally fine with, let him work his way back up to Double-A, get him a month in A-ball first before he gets there, if that's what you want to do. Maybe he doesn't need it. Maybe, from what we've seen so far, he's been pretty freaking good. So, maybe he doesn't need that at all and should be at Double-A, which, obviously Bernal did a lot of damage offensively, won the Gold Glove for the minor league award as a catcher in at Double-A Springfield last year. So I don't know why holding him down at Double-A would make a whole lot of sense. But like you said, you don't want him splitting time with Crooks, who is still young as well. So there's a conundrum here, and it all comes down to Herrera's elbow, and that's why we're here like this, because they don't know what he can do yet and when he's going to be ready to do anything if he behind the plate. So it all kind of depends on that. But Matt, like you said, Pozo seems to be the expendable guy. I don't think he has a problem being that guy either for them, and if he has to go down to Memphis, he'll do it. Dude lived in a car for a little while, so he's more than happy. That he's just glad he's got a job in professional baseball and is having a blast. Great guy to have around. If you need him, you bring him up. If you don't, he's fine in Memphis. It'll be okay.
Matt, what do you think about the minor league catching?
Yeah, this is kind of my point, and maybe I can say this more succinctly about Pages. I feel like every day with Pages as the primary catcher, in some ways down the chain, is a day that you are holding off Bernal and Rodriguez. And I just don't think that that's a good idea. I think that let's let Rodriguez and Bernal tell us where they need to play, and let's not clog the catching position in St. Louis so much that we did clogs all the time with Mozeliak and our prospects. Let's get past that. Let's let these guys tell us where they need to go, and let's play them there, and let's see when they progress, and let's see what happens. It's also entirely possible that one of these guys gets moved at some point, because right now you have too many good catching prospects for spots in the major leagues. So it will be interesting to see how it plays out. I love Bernal in AAA. Rodriguez might be able to play in Double-A as a 19-year-old. I don't know. If you can push him that far, then go right ahead. You know what I mean? Let's see him at 21 in St. Louis hitting balls off the wall. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, if this was any season that wasn't a rebuild, that catching depth would be that one that the other teams are salivating at, that the Cardinals would be able to trade for that finishing touch on a major league contender. But unfortunately, we are a handful of years away from that. But All right, before we head out from talking about the catchers, make sure you're giving this episode a like. And if I didn't guilt you to do it earlier, follow on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube. And for those of you listening right now, check that link in the description. That's just for you. So let's get out from behind the plate and move to the field. JD, give me one guy on the major league roster you're excited to just follow this spring. Pitcher, position player, just to see what they got going for them this spring.
Easy answers, JJ Weatherholt, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to move on from that. The guy I'm excited about is I want to see what a healthy Mason Wynn can do. I want to see, Gold Glove, phenomenal there defensively, but we need him to be more than he was offensively. And I know the first half of the season, pretty darn good. Bad wheel happens. Second half, not so good. And I want to see what a healthy Mason Wynn can do offensively, whether he's at the top or near the top of the order this year. I have no idea who they're going to have batting leadoff to start things off. But, it's been Mason, it's been Victor, have been the guys so far in spring training. He doesn't walk a lot. I would love to see him do that more often. I want to see his OBP go up a ton. And I want to see him on base. And I want to see him running more now that he's got a healthy leg. He's a phenomenal athlete. And he's I think 77th percentile sprint speed. So as long as he is a better reader of the pitchers, because he hasn't always been a great base stealer in the minor leagues. He stole some bags, but nothing major, nothing like the Victor Scott world. And I just think there's more to him, and I think that he has become arguably the face of the franchise. You got JJ, who's on the cusp of doing that and taking that over, but they're both 23. I mean, what a dynamic duo you'd have up the middle there with those guys. So that's who I'm the most excited about, who I'm watching this spring. Hasn't looked great so far, but we're only 4 games in, so I'm not gonna get all worked up about it. But I want more from Mason Wynn, so he's the guy I'm paying attention to a lot. And obviously, the Victor Scotts, Jordan Walkers, Nolan Gormans, we want to see them get better. But my guy's Mason Wynn. I don't want to steal anybody else's answers.
No, I absolutely love Mason Wynn, and he is definitely up the chart of favorite players. Should be the face of the franchise. Absolutely. He's marketable. He's a shortstop. He's the number 0, just looks so freaking cool, too. Matt, this spring, who are you looking at major league-wise?
JD mentioned him. What's Victor Scott got in the tank? So in the offseason, he went to this sports scientist voodoo witch in West Virginia that rebuilt his swing and looked at a video of his swing and told him where he hit the ball, and she knows nothing about baseball. So she's like a professor who essentially rebuilt his athletic swing to the ball. I mean, let's try it, right? Because here's the deal with Victor Scott. The defense in center field is almost as good as the defense that you're getting out of Mason Wynn at shortstop. And the wheels on Victor Scott and his ability to steal bases, if he's just a league average hitter, he is going to add so much value on the base paths that you're really augmenting his skills. So I don't even need him to turn into it would be great if he did. I don't even need him to turn into a 20% above average hitter. I just need the guy to be able to be league average and then just let everything else come to him. And so I absolutely do not think he should bat leadoff. I do not think Mason Wynn should bat leadoff either. I think let's just plant JJ Weatherholt there now and just let him to do it, because that's who needs to do it. But if Victor Scott could be a league average 9 hitter producing incredible defense in center field, you got a player and a guy that we should keep around for a long time.
Okay, I love it. I don't want to see any more 2-0 bunts from Victor Scott, but I would love to see that aggressive approach at the plate. So let's move down the roster a little bit, go to the minor league guys or non-roster invitees. Let's start with Matt this time before we round this thing out. Matt, any non-roster invitees or guys that are trying to crack the roster that you're excited about that we should be ready to see in St. Louis?
Yeah, Quinn Mathews. I think Quinn Mathews in 2024 was awesome. And we were on the hype train. JD said it earlier in the episode. He was hurt last year. If he is not hurt this year, he's 25 years old. I think he can do it. I think it's time for him to do it. I think we'll see him in St. Louis. And he is this crest of the tip of the iceberg of these prospects we have coming through with actual strikeout punch. And I don't even know if St. Louis sports fans are going to know what to do when our starting pitchers start striking out a guy an inning. We just haven't had this at all. And I think he is the first of many that are going to come down the pike here. And he's already looking good. His fastball is revitalized. If that shoulder is healthy, let's see it happen. And I am really excited about him because I think you just pause 2025 and go back to 2024. That's who I think we could get.
I like that. And he even kind of said that. He's like, if 2025, like, I mean, he needed that. He learned from that. But he was also like, if that was bad, like, I'm a pretty good pitcher. So I think he's going to find that out as well.
Yeah,
JD,
that was
what
one
do
of
you
the things
think?
that Chaim Bloom brought up was like, we're glad that he kind of struggled because when you're breezing your way through the minor leagues and everything's so easy, you think it's going to be like that all the time. And they'd rather see them, hit these speed bumps now in the minor leagues before they get to St. Louis, because that can be, as a developmental style, like just crushing on a guy's soul that he gets up there and like, oh no, I'm actually not good enough and I don't belong here. And, we've seen that with a couple of guys that were supposed to be good prospects for the Cardinals in the past. Yeah. And as you mentioned, the fastball, 90, upper 96, almost 97 he was touching. That's healthy. That's better than he was throwing last year. So, he certainly got the goods, and that changeup is the nasty thing too that he's got in his back pocket that not a lot of people have. So, yeah, I'm very excited for Quinn as well. I like that.
Is that your guy, or do you got one more you're keeping an eye
No,
on this spring?
I'm gonna go off base. I'm gonna go in a different direction for you. But I'm going pitching. I'm going because you could say Baez and you could say Rodriguez. Everybody's watching these guys. Luis Gastelum is the guy that I have just been on his jock. I think that's the best way to say it without getting too dirty. But last
I don't know.
spring,
That sounds like an HR violation right there.
When he came out last spring, I was just like, who is this dude? Like, I was super impressed. Goes to the minors. He was in Double-A, and you go and look at the numbers. You're like, what? And he's not 98, 99. It's the changeup that is just ungodly. And, when you get to, and you guys know this, when you see the same stuff over and over and over, it becomes a little bit easier to hit. What do the Cardinals have always struggled with? It seems like crafty, crap throwing lefties. Like, they can't hit this guy. They don't know how to do it. You go from like having all these guys, these power arms in the bullpen, and then you bring in a Luis Gastelum who just comes in and is throwing 70-mile-an-hour changeups that just fall off the table. Like, that's messing with dudes. And I'm excited to see him this spring. I don't think he's going to be on the major league roster when opening day starts or anything crazy like that. But he's one of those guys that I'm excited to see if they would just put the games on TV for us to watch. I would love to be able to see Luis Gastelum and a lot of these guys. And then the other one I'll throw out there, I want to see Nelson Velasquez because we want to see if he's real. We've seen him throw some power in the major leagues before, but he was in the Mexican League for God's sakes last year. Like, is he real? Is he not? I don't know, and we haven't seen it yet. But he's a guy obviously we're going to watch on, because if you talking about Pozo being that right-handed hitter off the bench, Velasquez could be that guy. As somebody who can also do some innings out in the outfield as well. So another guy that I'm keeping an eye on.
He was one that I was thinking of, but then I ended up settling on Nathan Church, who kind of seems like a forgotten guy in this whole thing. And it's not because of anything he's done. It was the questionable infatuation with Michael Ciani for a second that really seemed to play into that. But with Newt, with whatever's going on, I think Ben Hockman asked him, like, is opening day a possibility? He's like, truly, we don't know. It could be, but we don't know. I mean,
Which means no.
If we're going to go Tommy Edman style, that means we'll trade you to the Dodgers.
Not
See you at the All-Star break, Lars. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he could play his way into a very early, hey, how about a little Jeremy Hazelbaker? Maybe push it to a little bit of excitement for St. Louis early. I think that Nathan Church could do that. He's got an absolute cannon in center field. And he has a Cardinals home run this spring, which is one more than the big boppers that we are supposedly supposed to be hearing from.
He had good numbers at AAA. The surprise level. I think he hit like 335 or something like that. Like, it was tremendous numbers there. And as you mentioned, we like to sub out our defensive guys. That guy in right field, Walker, not so great. So if you got a guy like a Nathan Church, like, do we really want Sajasi and Fermin coming off the bench and being the savior of defense late in games? No, you got a guy like Nathan Church. Great wheels, could steal some bases, but obviously a plus hitter over what Siani offered. We knew he wasn't a hitter, and we were right.
You're assuming there's defensive late inning replacements to protect leads. So I don't know if that's going to happen too much this year, but you do have some points for sure.
65 wins, baby. That's going to happen 65 times. Nathan Church comes in for Jordan Walker.
Wow, what a phenomenal way to end it. I thought we were going in the right, talking about the things that we were going to be excited about, and then JD hits us with 65 when I'm in at 68 and a half, 69 and a half, and 70 and a half.
I think it'll be better than that. I have
too.
more faith in these guys than the projections give us, but if it's 65 times, Nathan Church is in 65 times for Jordan Walker.
That's fair. That's fine. All right. Well, let's wrap this with one quick hitter. JD, what is one thing? We got the World Baseball Classic coming up. We got some Cardinals that are going to be going. Riley O'Brien, maybe not anymore, but it seems like everybody else that was originally announced will be going. So with that figuring out and opening day about a month away, what's one thing you want to see settled? I know we talked the rotation that we said it's going to be revolving door. Catching's going to be revolving door. What is one thing you want to be firmly set before we head up to St. Louis?
Left field really is where I'm at with Newt being out. It's Sajasi, Fermin, Velasquez, and Church are the guys that I think are the. I love having Sajasi and Fermin learning to be able to do more than just play the infield. You can go find a couple of Brendan Donovans there, somebody who you trust to go out there and not screw the pooch and get the job done. They don't have to be stars, but just get the job done in situations. I'm all for that. More versatility, the better. It's what made Tommy Edman so good with the Cardinals as well. He's doing it as well with the Dodgers when he's healthy. So I'm all for Sajasi and Fermin. Fermin's looked pretty good so far in spring training. Hasn't had a whole lot of action in left field, but it seems that he's getting the majority of them. And I know Sajasi's going to World Baseball Classic. He's going to be playing shortstop, so they're probably like, all right, why don't you just focus on that for right now? But just figuring out what left field's going to look like, because I think a lot of people are a little worn out on what Lars Nootbaar is. They keep going, well, look at the analytics and stuff. But yeah, well, if he's such a good hitter, well, how come he doesn't hit good? Like, we don't know. We can't figure it out. So, who's that next guy that's going to take over? Is it going to be Baez eventually, but somebody's going to have to be that bridge until you get to Baez. They're not going to force him and make him come up right away by any means. So, I'm just kind of looking forward to watching that battle in left field.
Speaking of bridge, Matt, I think that takes you to a little bit of Lars Nootbaar analytic talk that you had over on redbirdrants.com. But what is also one thing that you want to have settled besides the Lars Nootbaar StatCast numbers?
Sure. I think that's important to settle. I've said it once. I'm just going to speak it into existence again right here. Cardinals organization, put J.J. Weatherholt in the leadoff position. Let him play second base. Do it on opening day. He is potentially going to be your best hitter right off the bat. Let's not mess around. Let's not do the service time thing. People in St. Louis need something to cheer for. I think he has charisma. I think he's got all the things that you're talking about with Mason Wynn. I think we have two of those guys. Let's just see them. Just put it in, settle it, put it in pin, do it every day, and just let the guy hit because he's going to hit.
I love it. And that pretty much takes us to the end of this thing. So before I wrap this up, I want to thank JD for coming on for the first time. So for our people that have not heard you before, if you could jump on, where can they find you? Social media, drop it all.
Social media wise, we've got at JD Sports Radio on X, and you can also follow that on like Instagram and TikTok. The podcast itself, Locked On Cardinals, anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all the normal places there. And then we've also got like the X page, which is at LO_Cardinals that you can follow on X. I do a lot more of the posting from there. It just seems to get a little more attention than just like the solo stuff when I talk about the Cardinals. So I'm on there a little bit more than I am just on the singular account. So would love to have you guys stop on by and be a part of it. Just creating conversation about the Cardinals and having a good time doing it.
Love it, Matt. Anything you want to add before we take this thing home?
No, your listeners know where to find me all the time. Pop on Cardinals on my time every once in a while. Pod with Scott every week on Redbird Rundown. Have a great time doing it. So it's been fun. It's been a good journey. I'm looking forward to this season. JD might be right. We might win 65 games, but it just everything feels different, and that is refreshing. And so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, building towards something. There's a path, and it seems like we got the right people in charge that are going to see this thing through, and there's a lot of talent there to be excited about. A lot of unknowns, maybe not as high a ceiling as some people would like, but maybe not the lowest floor either that we were used to over the last few years. So I'm hyped for it. I want to see the kids play, and I think it'll be entertaining, and I hope people come out to the ballpark to check them out.
Maybe it's just blind excitement for something just because it's something new, but either way, I'm with you guys. I'm excited. Let's see the kids play. Everyone's under 28. Let's see what happens. So that's one more reminder just for you guys to like, follow, and subscribe on all our social medias. For those of you listening, check out that super special link in the description. Like Matt said, I will talk to you guys on Sunday on Redbird Rundown. For Matt and JD, I'm Scott Plaza. This was Cardinals on My Time. Thanks for hanging.